I'm Dennis Anderson along with Julie Zenner, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Lawmakers return to St. Paul this week for the start of the 2015 Minnesota legislative session. We'll talk with House and Senate members tonight.
Hall of Fame high school basketball coach Bob McDonald has a new book co-written with Melody Swenson. We will talk to them about his life and times on the range.
And we'll have the week's business headlines and a story that was making news 25 years ago.
So stay where you are. Almanac North is next. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thank you very much for watching. And Julie, this is our first news show of 2015, and January is showing its teeth.
It is indeed. It looks to be a fierce one.
I think so. Hopefully not for too long.
I hope
All right,
not.
We've got some great guests.
All right, thank you, Dennis, and welcome everyone. Minnesota's 89th legislative session began this week at the state capitol in St. Paul. 67 state senators and 134 House members met for the first year of the biennial session. And there's talk of getting 2 years worth of work done in 1 year's time to ease congestion at the Capitol due to construction. Well, joining us now is Representative Jason Metsa, a Democrat from Virginia, who represents House District 6B, and Senator Roger Reinert of Duluth is a DFLer from Minnesota's 7th Senate District. And thanks to both of you for coming in. Really appreciate it. Representative Metsa, one of the big changes this year, of course, the Republicans are in control of the House. As a Democrat, what do you think that's going to do in terms of getting your agenda done?
Well, you know, up in the Northland here, I think we've always been renowned for being able to work across the aisle and get things done even amidst, you know, party leadership changes. And I am a new minority member, meaning my first term serving in the minority. So I'm sure I've got a lot of learning to do, but I'm looking forward to kind of hitting the ground running. And, you know, I think it comes down to your bill selection and making sure you're picking stuff that you know, has a good chance of gaining support from your friends across the aisle to get it through the House to our good friends in the Senate.
Well, let's talk about some of those bill priorities from both of you. And why don't you start, Senator?
Well, I mean, clearly the number one priority of the session is the budget. It's the odd-numbered year, and that's the thing we are charged with doing. But within that, I think, you know, transportation is really the key issue. I think everyone at the legislature knows that that's a priority. Roads, bridges, and transit across Minnesota need investment, and I think you hear that from both houses and both parties. And you know, where you'll see the conversation is, what does that investment look like? And you know, we're seeing that shape up already.
$1 billion surplus in the general fund. Taxpayers would want to know, is any of that going back to the taxpayer?
I would say that that's unlikely, you know, and let's back out why that is. You know, first of all, once you take out what we're required to put in the savings account, and then once you factor in just inflation on the status quo budget, that's almost the entire surplus. So $1 billion surplus is a bit of a misnomer. And then if we really are going to do anything meaningful on transportation, you know, the $100 or $200 million remaining is probably going to be invested there.
No property tax relief on any of that money?
I wouldn't expect to see anything significantly different from the budget we've had in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to get back, didn't really hear what your priorities were going to be for the year.
Yeah, so I think, you know, Roger hit the head on the transportation subject. I was looking forward to hopefully being able to serve on the Transportation Committee. Unfortunately, I had to get jobs instead, which hosts the IRRB under its jurisdiction. We got one less committee in the minority. But one of the things I'm going to be taking up is some septic grandfathering and reform, of which I'm sure I'll see a little bit more detail. We'll get on with Greg later on in the legislative report and be able to nail out that. I'm just kind of hammering out some beginning details now. But it would basically take a system that was built in compliance with the law that hadn't structurally failed or was a you know, concern for public health in any way, shape, or form, and grandfather it, make sure that people weren't having to replace things that weren't broken. So
Jason, the Speaker of the House, who is a Republican, says over the past 2 years, Greater Minnesota got left behind. Is that true? Either one of you?
I really don't think so. You know, we might not have done as well of a job as we could have telling people what we did. You know, I think our schools have seen more money since the Minnesota Miracle, back when Wendy Anderson was around and way before my time. And I think that investment, be hitting our students, and we'll be seeing the reaps and rewards of it as that funding hits, and that's just starting to hit.
Roger, did Duluth get left behind last year?
No, I don't think so either. I do welcome the speaker as a champion for Greater Minnesota. You know, we were at a program on Wednesday, and former Majority Leader Roger Moe sort of made a nice pitch for Greater Minnesota. He said to the Metro legislators, and it's important for us to keep in mind, for the first time in the state's history, a majority of the legislatures from the Metro area. That's never happened before, and that's significant. And what Majority Leader Moe said to them is, you know, for 3, 4, 5 months a year, we come and live in your world. We know your issues. At best, you come and visit us. And that's important. So to have a champion and a legislative leader, in this case, and the new Speaker in the House for Greater Minnesota is a good thing. We welcome the partnership.
As you start hearing some of the ideas that the Republicans in the House are putting together to help Greater Minnesota, are there areas where you see that there can be some consensus and that the parties can work together to really benefit this area?
I think, you know, we started off when we were in control last time. It'll continue on. I think it's kind of another misnomer in the legislature is we all go down there and don't get along. The majority of the things, we do together. A lot of bills you'll see come through almost always have an author from the other side of the aisle. Outside maybe their major House files that come through at the beginning. And so I think we'll do a lot of that again, and there'll be a lot of good bills, not the glamorous stuff that we see on the evening news all the time, but the little things that make life work for your average people.
Are we going to see an increase in gasoline taxes for road work?
You know, Denny, I don't know how that's going to shake out in the end. I'm on transportation. I have been every year I've been at the Capitol. You know, the one thing we need to do is move away from a per gallon. You know, we are seeing cars that are more efficient, and we want that, but that means that is a dwindling source of revenue. And whether it's a sales tax or whether it's a wholesale tax, I think we're going to see a change in how we fund transportation, not necessarily an additional tax on top of the things we already do. And I did want to just touch on what Jason said. You know, it's amazing what you can get done when you're not worried about who gets the credit. And I think in this environment of a Republican House and a Democratic Senate, relationships matter. And as long as we're just willing to work with each other and not concerned about who the chief author is and who gets to pass the bill, we will still do well in northeastern Minnesota, and Minnesota will do well.
And you've had your Purple Caucus already. Do you think that that's going to be even more important this year?
Yeah, Jeremy Miller, the Republican senator from Monona, and I, who co-chair that, have already met. We've already set up a meeting because we do think it's going to be a space where members from both parties can get together and have a conversation. And, Jason highlighted, and I think it's important to note, I don't know that anyone would say there are big differences in goals. Closing the achievement gap, transportation across Minnesota, higher education. It's going to be about how do we get there. And that is where we can benefit from having a space like the Purple Caucus where we can just talk with each other.
Julie alluded to it at the top of the broadcast. Can you get 2 years of work done in one session?
I think it's way too early.
It's hard to get 1 year's worth of work done in one session.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little, I think, premature. We can all be idealistic and think maybe we could get everything done in a year, but we had a big bonding bill last year. Part of our year this year would be a bonding session of some kind, whether we adjourn in May and come back for a special session of some sort this year. Mm-hmm. But even if that were the course, there are so many projects across the state now that need to get looked at and reviewed, and there's such a thorough process. I hope that we're taking the time to really look at those investments and make sure that we're doing it wisely.
I think everyone's crystal ball is a little hazy at the Capitol, but if I had to predict, I would say we're going to work really hard to get virtually everything done this session. I mean, just in 1 week, we had a hearing on Thursday in the Capitol and couldn't hardly hear each other because of construction. And I think that's going to motivate people to get stuff done. But I think Jason's right, it's going to be really hard to do a bonding bill this session. So I think you'll see us return to a true short session where we come back at some time later next year, maybe later this summer, and just do a bonding bill.
Let's talk about the Capitol renovations and what it's doing to life down there. Are you finding that business is not as usual?
Business is not as usual, not even close. Jason can talk about the experience in the House. The first day when we opened in the Senate, Senator Leroy Stump, who was calling the roll, you couldn't hardly hear him. There's no rotunda, so people that want to come and make their voices heard are doing it almost right inside the chamber. Like I said, we had this joint transportation, public safety, and judiciary committee meeting on a really important topic. Microphones didn't work from interference from the tools, and people were right above us working away. And they've got a job to do, but I really do think it's going to be a very, very challenging session.
Meeting space at a premium?
I would definitely say so.
Not in their building. They're great.
Our building's actually
great.
pretty good, but all my shortcuts over to theirs are gone.
Are gone,
so.
yeah. No one knows where they're going. I mean, just to give a for real example, the first floor of the Capitol, there are literally 2 rooms that are open. Everything else is closed. The governor's been moved out. I mean, the first floor and the second floor is only the chambers. So in the Capitol, the only floors that are really open are the basement and the 3rd floor. So half the Capitol is closed.
What's going to happen with education this session?
I would say the Senate said, actually on higher ed,
Yeah.
I've heard some pretty neat ideas coming out there if Roger wanted to hit on those.
Yeah, one of the things that we proposed in our kind of first set of bills following the model in Tennessee and following actually what the president was just talking about earlier today is free tuition at at the community and vocational colleges. Of course, I teach at Lake Superior College, so I think this is fabulous. I see my students with 2, 3, 4 jobs at a community college trying to pay tuition. So, it's in the state budget of $40 billion. The price tag of 80 to 100 million is a relatively small amount of money. We'll see that initiative on the Senate side on higher ed. I don't know where the House will be on that. And I think we're really going to see a focus in K-12 on trying to close the achievement gap, which exists around Minnesota for us in Duluth as well as it does in the Twin Cities.
Now, with the $1 billion surplus, I imagine there's some pressure for new spending, even though some of the legislative leaders and the governor are saying that maybe this is the time for restraint. But are you feeling the pressure?
I haven't gotten too much in terms of new spending. Again, transportation's been probably the number one issue I've heard about back home and just out and about. And I think the proposal from my colleagues in the House on the other side of the aisle needs quite a bit more new investment. I thought the Senate version was quite a bit better, but I think when you look at the $200 million that they would use out the shortfall now to go to our spending, and then creeping up, through some other cuts in the back end, 15% agency mandate cuts, getting up to about $750 million. It's not enough. We got to make a bigger investment just to keep Minnesotans happy and their tires full of air. So.
Oh, we're about out of time, but I do have to ask you, running for mayor?
It's something that I've given serious consideration to. So, we will see.
More to come.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Now, let's dig into our news file archive for a look at what was making news 25 years ago this week.
Fur is a cultural icon symbolizing wealth and glamour. But lately, a growing number of people are not seeing it that way anymore. Animal rights activists here in the Northland are using eye-opening tactics like this one to raise public awareness.
The label fur industry itself, that humane societies more think of it as the wholesale slaughter of animals and think of it as a flesh trade. It's comparable to calling prostitution a pleasure industry.
Karen Moore uses pictures like these to educate people. She says it's the first step to influencing them to see the cruelty in killing animals.
We would like to see Duluth become a cruelty-free zone. We would like to see no skins of animals in fur sold in Duluth.
The next obvious question would be, has the controversy dissuaded fur lovers here in the Northland from buying? According to the owner of USA Fox and Furs, the answer is no.
Well, business here has been booming. Our sales over 45% above last year's sales, and the fur industry in 1989 sales were over 20% more than the previous year. So sales in the fur industry are excellent.
Wayne Nurmi says the controversy has actually helped his business for two reasons. First, more attention is being brought to the fur industry itself, and second, people just plain don't like being told what to do or what to wear. So the issue boils down to a freedom of choice, and the bottom line is that you may never look at a fur coat the same way again. Stacy Scheibel, KDLH News.
A good number of you know him. Bob McDonald is a coaching legend in Minnesota. Over a 59-year basketball coaching career, he led Chisholm High School to 11 state tournaments and 3 Minnesota state championships. The fact is, Bob won more games than any other Minnesota coach, and last year was inducted into the National High School Hall of Fame. What an honor. Together with Melody Swenson, he recently authored a book on his life and times. And joining us now is Bob McDonald to talk about his book, and Melody Swenson is co-author and writer. And she has also 2 other books on Northland sports history. I want to thank you both for being here. Bob, it's called Travels and Tribulations, A Coach's Journey, but there's a whole lot more in this book than just basketball. What else is in there?
Well, I think really it's a historical study. If it were just basketball, I think it'd be quite dull. But being that I'm from immigrant stock way back, you know, I seem to relish the fact that if you go back in history, and my background as an example, Europe takes its toll. You know, I go to Croatia every year. I'm an immigrant at heart, like most other people are. They come from an immigrant stock. And I've relished that, no question about that, and that's led me to believe that I can accomplish a few things simply because of my background of hard work and the mentality I have.
Melody, you have an interest in both history and sports, so this had to be kind of a dream collaboration for you.
Well, it was a dream and sometimes a nightmare too, but not really too much of a nightmare. It was really enjoyable. And it was fun because Bob has a real love of history and I love history, and kind of being able to combine sports and history together tells not just the story of sports or Bob's life or basketball, but really a history of our area too.
Mm-hmm.
Bob, McGregor, Barnum, then your hometown Chisholm. What led up to you wanting to become a coach?
Well, I think my background, because my uncles were all involved in sports. I grew up with my grandmother, and my uncles had a great deal to do with the way I grew up. And they were interested in basketball, football, and sports in general. And I felt that due to their leadership that I might be successful if I worked hard enough at that game. So it's been beneficial to me generally as a person.
And obviously a love for kids.
Oh, definitely. I hate to use the word definitely, but it certainly was a, how should I put it, beneficial to me to be around a multitude of different types of individuals, young people, different personalities, different goals in life, and trying to meld them into something successful, like a decent career in basketball. I think most of my players really went out of the Chisholm program feeling good about themselves and about what they accomplished.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
It is really. It's not really the wins. So many times you talk about wins and all that stuff. That goes by the board. It's the people I remember, the older people, my fans, and the players that played for me that's most important to me.
Is there a philosophy that kind of guided your coaching along the way, or a coach who really impacted you that you wanted to follow in their footsteps?
Well, I suppose Harvey Rolls, as the example, Nerbaluzzo, who was my father, by the way, those people influenced me. But again, the idea that you could accomplish something with young people try to make them successful and feel good about themselves was the essence of what I did. And I wouldn't change that for the world.
Melody, in writing the book, you were able to draw from Bob a real soft side. I'm amazed at the poetry you write. How did you do that? How'd you accomplish it?
I didn't do anything other than look through his journals. He's always kept journals, and that is one of the things that I think is real interesting, and that was surprising to me because, I mean, I knew about Bob what probably most people, which is he's pretty strict, disciplinarian, kind of a hard-nosed, kind of a ranger.
But a mushy heart.
Yeah, that's what I found. And there's poetry in there, and there also are some of his paintings. He's a beautiful painter, and that's in the book as well.
I was surprised by the poetry also because some of it is very, very personal. You write about your childhood, you write about your grandmother and your first wife, and all through this, did people know that this hard-nosed coach had such a soft side to him?
I wouldn't want to let them know. If they knew, they think it was soft, you know. So, I mean, there's a facade everybody puts on in their lifetime. And in order to coach, I think you have to have discipline, you have to have focus, and in order to do things with kids. And I thought I projected that quite well, in spite of the fact that underneath it all, I did other things as well. And I was proud of those things I did, both in the athletic world and really in trying to designate what I was as a person.
Bob, you gave a lot to your teams. What did they give to you?
Well, I think you have to realize that they gave me youth again. That is a big item I think you find in coaches and relationship with their kids. You become more youthful dealing with young people. Dealing with old people, you know, is another story. You know, I go to the nursing homes to visit, and I know what that is. But young people keep you young, and they keep you alive, and they keep you mentally alert.
Mm-hmm. Any particular team or incident from your coaching that really sticks out in your mind as a pivotal point for you?
Well, I think, you know, when you look at it, my teams in the 70s, early 70s, determined what I kind of was. And I think, say what you will about winning, winning determines, I think, the pathway for you. It's not defeatist, it's a positive. So in those teams in the 70s, I think they promoted me as a coach, but I hope I promoted them as individuals of some substance, really.
Your son coaches in Hibbing, your grandson coaches at Duluth East.
Yep.
What did you instill in them? Did you say you guys have got to go out now and be a coach too, or they just saw what Dad and Grandpa was doing, or what happened there?
I think you know, Mike is at Cambridge, Joel is in Hibbing, Tom is in Ely, Paul is at the junior college in Ely, so at Vermilion, and they all have taken off in their own direction, probably with my background and help in doing the things for kids. I hate the word kids, young people that will determine a course of life for them that will be beneficial.
Melody, the book is very readable, and part of it is it's written in a very unique style where while the two of you collaborated, your writing is also very separate. You've got Bob's recollections, you've got you kind of fleshing out the historical context of things. Was that the plan going in, or was it just how it evolved through the process?
It was pretty much how it evolved through the process because I literally, when I had met with Bob and his wife Carol, he had journals that he turned over, and they were handwritten journals. And so at that point I didn't know where to really begin, so I just started transcribing them, and then I went through and some things were in chronological order, some things weren't, and so for me the easiest way to read it was to do it through the course of anyone's life, as you start at the beginning and you go to the present. And the style, as far as having some of it be Bob's work and some of it be mine, I think it just kind of naturally fell into place because I wanted to keep his persona and his voice throughout the book, but yet I wanted to make sure that I added a different perspective too to kind of put it together. So
Bob, over 1,000 wins. You've got 59 years of coaching. Is there one certain year that stands out? One certain team? Well,
I think when you look at it, 1973 would define me as a coach. And say what you will about winning. I know it's problematic for some people to look at that is a source of my success in the future. But that's what 1973, I think, was the year that defined me as a coach and a leader of young men.
Sure.
I believe that.
All right.
And they
Bob,
led me.
We've got to stop here. Thank you so very much, Melody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you
Appreciate
both.
it.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Well,
Good to see you.
Time now for the week's top business stories from our friends at Business North. Mark Phillips will succeed Tony Sertich as Commissioner of the Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation Board. The appointment was announced Wednesday by Governor Mark Dayton. Phillips brings 25 years of experience to the position. He was the IRRB's Director of Economic Development from 1983 to 1988 and later served as Director of Development for Minnesota Power and Vice President of Northeast Ventures Corporation. Phillips is a former commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development under Dayton and has been Director of Business Development at Krause Anderson Construction for the past 2 years.
well, the debate over building a new oil pipeline pitted jobs versus the environment during a Tuesday public hearing in Duluth. Hundreds signed up to address whether the Public Utilities Commission should allow Enbridge Energy to construct a proposed $2.6 billion sandpiper line. The pipeline could move 225,000 barrels of oil per day across Minnesota. Proponents say the project would create about 1,500 high-paying jobs during construction. But environmentalists argue it would extend the practice of burning carbon-based fossil fuels, which they contend warm the climate. It could be another 6 months before regulators issue a ruling.
A 10-county region in northwest Wisconsin will be analyzed in coming months to learn more about the skills gap. The UWS Department of Business and Economics will conduct a survey to identify the current and future needs of employers, matching them with the skills possessed by the workforce. The survey will target employers to find out why businesses find it difficult to fill their positions. A final report will be released in June by the Northwest Wisconsin Workforce Investment Board. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
If you have a comment about our show, now's the time to call. Dial 218-788-2849 to leave a message or send us an email to almanacnorth@wdsc.org. You can also go to the WDSC website for updates on your favorite shows, public television-related events, and news about the station. Well, Julie, good to be back after a couple of weeks off.
Yeah, it was very nice to be off, but it's always better to be back here with you.
I think you're right. 2015 is here. A lot of great shows with many good guests coming up in the weeks and months to come. For Julie and the crew here at Almanac North, I'm Dennis Anderson. Have a great weekend, everybody. Good night and be kind.